Just a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, Xbox was under significant fire. Why are they taking their games multi-platform? That's why their consoles are not selling. What's going on? Xbox is pretty much been destroyed. You Xbox users, you are weak, blah, blah, blah. Insults flying all over the place, but you know the gaslighting comes from outside and within. I've been studying and looking at the conversation very carefully, and I've realized that Xbox users have to deal with PlayStation players ragging on them, and also some Xbox players dissatisfied and also fomenting discontent within. I'll show you guys an article, and then I'll show you data that we now have from the horse's mouth, data that I've basically been propagating for months and months and months. And you'll see that for some reason, there seemed to have been an agenda a while ago. December 10th, after saying Xbox multi-platform game delivery will have no red lines, Xbox's games chief is now saying they'll go multi-platform on a game-by-game basis. Does it make sense? Jess Gordon writes and says the big controversy surrounding Xbox pertains to whether or not it plans to keep delivering exclusive games to Xbox customers on console. Microsoft itself doesn't even seem to know yet. Homie, the market already told them what to do. But if you think that they didn't know exactly what they needed to do and they weren't just, soft rolling it until the market was primed to stop all of the big hardcore talkers in terms of them seeing data and then shutting up, then you're mistaken. You see, these folk play chess. They knew you'd eventually know because these game sales coming out all over the place are proving that ain't none of y'all buying these games. Let's go. If we go ahead and basically go ahead and think about
video games will not buy a
video game this year.
Hold on. Let me go ahead and.
Wow. So that's a third of the audience that just won't buy.
Yeah.
30% of people that play video games will not buy a video game this year.
So with this in mind, you can already see that Jess Gordon's article where he's writing about this stuff and talking about it being a controversy is only one controversy that's fomented on Twitter, because Twitter is not real life. X is what they call it these days. I'm going to call it Twitter. It says, can no red lines live alongside case-by-case basis? Yes. Starfield is not on PlayStation. I don't see it anywhere. I mean, right? I keep wondering why everybody is saying is, can they, it's still on Xbox. It's still on a case by case. Avowed. Do y'all see it on PlayStation? Did you get a PlayStation announce date for it? But you got one for Outer Worlds. So case by case basis can go. And ladies and gentlemen, the case is a very simple one to decipher. It's not some arbitrary case like, should a comet fly past the skies of Antarctica? It's just if our developers are getting hungry, we're going to go port our game somewhere else. That's literally the case. If you're wondering what case by case means, that's simply it. Because you see, if those developers start to need cash, and there's no way for them to be able to recoup cash, then those developers are going to start looking at what they call cute moments of force reduction. It was with such difficulty. That's what it's going to start out with, right? You've seen many of them, right? It was with such difficulty that we had to engage in force reduction. It's the case that Phil Spencer is trying to avoid. That's what some Xbox fans are asking today. This is why Xbox fans got upset with me when I started telling them that, Hi-Fi Rush going to other platforms and, is a good thing. If that game had launched day one as a shadow drop on all platforms, I strongly believe that we would still have a conversation with that studio being under Xbox's coffers. The game would have probably brought in a good surge of cash for that studio to continue in confidence. Because the game was a good game, but their past record had not really yielded much with the Evil Within games that they'd made. So it made sense from a business perspective that the studio basically be allowed to keep doing business in one way or the other. Think about it. Early in 2024, Microsoft revealed it had plans to bring Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush to the arch-rival PlayStation. At that time, Microsoft said plans were for those 4 games only until it wasn't. This past summer, it revealed that rather unceremoniously that Xbox's big console guys, I'm being facetious here, okay? Let me be serious, okay? That Xbox's big console, exclusive for winter, Indiana Jones: The Great Circle, was in fact not exclusive at all. The game is coming to PlayStation in the spring of 2025, with many wondering if this hints at further plan. Okay? Naturally, many Xbox fans wonder if iconic games like Halo, Forza, or Gears of War could eventually hit PlayStation 2. It's been a bitter pill for many, given that Spencer himself testified under oath, Activision acquisition, that PlayStation users use the fund it gets from Xbox games that are already on PlayStation, like Minecraft, to cut timed exclusivity deals that harm Xbox as a challenger platform. Phil already knew what he was going to do about it. He just had to position himself in a place of weakness. But he knew Xbox Game Pass was going to be a juggernaut, and those so-called timed exclusives were all going to be a fugazi at the end of the day, because none of y'all are buying these games.
Wow. So that's a third of the audience that just won't buy. A further 18% purchase a new game every 6 months or less frequently. So these are your folks that are buying Madden or EAFC, or they're picking up Call of Duty, right? Your big mass market only kind of buyer.
PlayStation locked itself into a very weird conundrum. I'm going to keep reading this article because this article is highly, in my opinion, dismissive of real-world data that had been available to us for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, Piscatella has been posting this stuff for over a year now. Everybody had access to it. He was posting it on Twitter. Do you all remember? He left Twitter because Fanboy brain-dead nonsense would not quit. He went to LinkedIn and he went to Blue Sky. And the data still kept flowing. There were some people who were, cross-posting it, but even they got tired. Why? Because the list remained the same. The list looked like the list last week and the next week. Sony first-party output was relatively light this year. We didn't know then that they were going to cancel a ton of games. But it had a ton of success regardless, thanks to publishing deals with games like Helldivers 2 and timed third-party exclusive Black Myth Wukong. Ladies and gentlemen, to read this article, and again, it's only what we knew or perceived. But it's funny, I still have to laugh. I'm not going to sit here and, hold back a laugh and feign something that is not, coming from my gut. I literally wrote Microsoft is pushing for no red lines when I outlined what I heard about Latitude internally back in May. Although, I did also note in my Xbox 2 podcast that recently that Microsoft also views its multi-platform strategy through a case-by-case lens. My Buddha recently described the strategy as such during an internal town hall meeting. Whereas of yet unseen Fable combat gameplay was also presented to staff. It looks awesome, by the way, indeed. It's not the first time the phrase case-by-case basis has been used as such, even publicly, but Booty reiterated them again in a recent interview. Speaking with Variety, Xbox's game lead, Matt Booty, offered a statement that some have taken to be contradictory based on how Xbox's CEO Phil Spencer's recent comment about red lines. Xbox fans are scrambling to figure out what these below statements mean for a variety of reasons. And sure, some just seek more console war fodder, treating PlayStation versus Xbox as some kind of sport. However, others are concerned about what it could mean for their Xbox game libraries long term. That is a very silly concern. Because when has Xbox ever said to you that your game library is going to be in jeopardy because their games are going to other platforms? Like, when has that ever become a problem? Xbox has been putting games on other platforms, and it's not affected the Xbox users' game library that I know of. Somebody correct me in the comment section if there's any of such instance. So I think for many that were probably, foddering this stuff, they were that 4% that Piscatella is talking about.
Kind of purchaser that's watching this show, you're probably buying at least one game a month, maybe more. Only 12% of video game players buy a game once a month. Only 4% buy games more often than once per month. So, when we're talking about the developers and the publishers that are really being, hurt the most, that we're talking the most about, are the games that are really targeting this, like 16% of total players that are, purchasing very frequently, while the mass majority of players are buying a game or two a year and they're playing Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox.
So if you actually go back and you think about it, why was all this missing in the context of all of these conversations? Where people were talking about, confusion. Oh, are these games going to PlayStation? How does that affect my library? What? Let me tell you guys what's been going on. For the most part, everybody saw the writing on the wall. When PlayStation's data leaked, it was still just Corden who wrote about it, right? However, I don't think many people considered that this was a big threat because the perception that PlayStation had given was one that thrived when we didn't have information, when we didn't have data, when we didn't have numbers. So people would go ahead and spout some things like, Game Pass is bad for the industry. People will go ahead and spout all kinds of nonsense. Xbox is dead. Their games are... They'll be spouting these nonsense, not realizing that the counterintuitive thing that they thought Xbox was doing was actually the same thing to do. And when Xbox went in hard, PlayStation, even themselves as a business, had to realize our pillars are dated and behind the competition. Perception could not carry them anymore. Now that their financial statements are being shown, we're looking at their financial statements in light of the data. Do y'all remember how their first-party games in their last financial statement basically took a hit in the last quarter, even when they sold way more consoles? Did y'all see that? And their third-party games pretty much brought in more revenue than them. And they would desire that their first-party games actually bring in more revenue. Why? When you run the numbers, they'd rather switch those numbers around and sell that number in terms of first-party and the other number in terms of third-party. This is what Nintendo enjoys, that PlayStation can't get back, nor Xbox, if they follow exclusivity paradigms. So what has Xbox done? It's upended that paradigm and said, we're no longer going to create a wall for us to make money. Don't be fooled. Some of you are like, well, no walls, but to maybe the games go other places. No, those walls were basically for them to make more money, pretty much. That's why they removed them. Do you understand what I mean? And so if PlayStation is not interested in making more money, it can continue to pretend to be exclusive. And those of you who continue to say, well, PlayStation can be exclusive because Nintendo does. I've asked you all before, so are Nintendo players going to come out here and buy these PlayStation games? Because if Nintendo players aren't coming to buy these PlayStation games, y'all are on your own. Because Fortnite is there. Sweeney and his Fortnite are there beating on y'all. So y'all need to act right and buy 2 copies of the game, a remaster, preferably, according to Shuhei Yoshida and Herman Holst. That's probably going to go ahead and help you to see more of these games come forth. I can't state how funny looking at articles that were written back in just a few months ago are now in retrospect. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.